Behind the shadows of doubt, the secret that nearly destroyed Xukai and Tan Songyun's trust. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating drama stories, celebrity updates, and emotional stories that keep you guessing until the very end. Some stories begin with happiness. Others begin with a single unanswered question. And then there are stories that begin with something far more dangerous, a tiny doubt that quietly takes root in the heart and grows until it threatens to destroy everything two people have built together. For Xukai and Tan Songyun, the danger did not arrive with a dramatic confrontation. There was no explosive argument, no obvious betrayal, and no shocking confession. It began with silence. For a long time, the two had seemed inseparable. Their relationship was built on affection, loyalty, and a deep understanding of one another. Xukai was known for being protective and devoted, the kind of person who valued trust above almost everything else. Tan Songyun, meanwhile, was ambitious, passionate, and increasingly consumed by her rapidly expanding career in the creative world. At first, Xukai was proud of her. He celebrated every opportunity she received. He encouraged her to chase her dreams and never complained when her schedule became demanding. But gradually, something changed. Not dramatically. Not overnight. Just enough for Xukai to notice. Tan Songyun started coming home later than usual. Meetings stretched into the night. Her phone seemed to ring at strange hours, and whenever Xukai entered the room, she would sometimes turn the screen face down. When he asked about her day, her answers became shorter. Just work. I'm tired. I'll tell you later. Nothing about those answers was necessarily suspicious. But together, they created a feeling Xukai could not explain. And once doubt enters the heart, even ordinary things can begin to look like evidence. He tried to ignore it. He told himself that she was simply busy. He reminded himself that he trusted her. But late at night, when the apartment was quiet and Tan Songyun was still working, the questions returned. Where was she? Who was she talking to? Why did she suddenly seem so distant? And most importantly, why did he feel as though she was keeping something from him? Then came the photograph that changed everything. One evening, Xukai decided to come home early with dinner. He imagined surprising her with her favorite meal and spending a quiet evening together. But when he opened the door, the apartment was empty. There was only a short note explaining that Tan Songyun had been called into an urgent meeting and probably would not return until after midnight. Xukai stared at the note for several seconds. He tried to smile. Just work, he told himself. Then his phone buzzed. A mutual acquaintance had sent him a casual photograph from a fashionable cafe across town. At first, Xukai barely paid attention. Then he saw her. Tan Songyun was sitting at a table with an unfamiliar man. He was well dressed, handsome, and clearly involved in an intense conversation with her. They were sitting close together. Too close, Xukai thought. His stomach tightened. Suddenly, every late night seemed connected. Every unanswered question seemed more important. Every time she had turned her phone face down suddenly felt suspicious. The rational part of his mind told him not to jump to conclusions. But fear is rarely rational. And when someone becomes terrified of losing the person they love, imagination can become crueler than reality. Was Tan Songyun hiding another relationship? Had someone else entered her life? Was she slowly falling out of love with him? Xukai could not get those questions out of his head. And then he made a decision he would later deeply regret. Instead of confronting Tan Songyun, he hired a private investigator. He wanted answers. But he wanted those answers without asking her directly. The following morning, surveillance began. An unmarked vehicle followed Tan Songyun as she moved around the city. Her meetings were recorded. Her destinations were documented. Every detail of her daily schedule was quietly sent back to Xukai. And with every report, his anxiety grew. He sat alone, opening files that he almost wished he had never requested. There were meetings. There were phone calls. There were business appointments. Nothing definitive. Nothing that proved betrayal. But instead of calming him, the lack of an answer made the situation even more unbearable. He was searching for evidence of something he desperately hoped did not exist. Then, on the third day, the investigator called. The news was enough to make Xukai's heart stop. Tan Songyun had entered a luxury hotel in the center of the city. And minutes later, the same unfamiliar man from the cafe arrived. He entered the building and went directly toward a private conference area. Xukai stared at the message. For several seconds, he could not move. The hotel. The same man. The secret meetings. It felt like the final piece of a puzzle he had been afraid to complete. He grabbed his keys. He could no longer sit behind a desk and wait. He drove through the city with one thought dominating his mind. He needed to know the truth. Whatever that truth was, he was going to face it. When Xukai arrived at the hotel, he followed the investigator's information toward a secluded lounge upstairs. His heart was pounding. His hands were trembling. Every step felt heavier than the last. He reached the door. For one moment, he hesitated. What if everything he feared was true? What if opening the door changed his relationship forever? He pushed it open. And then he froze. The scene inside was nothing like what he had imagined. There was no romantic encounter. No secret affair. No intimate confession. Instead, the room looked more like a war room for a massive business project. Blueprints covered the tables. Fabric samples were scattered across chairs. Design concepts, financial documents, presentation materials, and architectural plans were stacked everywhere. And in the center of it all sat Tan Songyun. Her hair was tied into a messy bun. Her makeup had almost completely faded. There were dark circles beneath her eyes. Several empty coffee cups surrounded her. She looked exhausted. Completely exhausted. The unfamiliar man was standing beside her, pointing at a series of financial documents. They were arguing, not about romance, but about budgets, structural plans, investment figures, and deadlines. Xukai stood silently in the doorway. He could barely understand what he was seeing. Then the man noticed him. His expression immediately changed to surprise. He walked over and extended his hand. "You must be Xukai." Xukai could barely respond. The man smiled. "Your partner is incredible. She has been working almost around the clock for the past month." Xukai's heart sank. The man continued. "She has been trying to secure funding for a new creative foundation." Xukai stared at him. "A foundation?" The investor nodded. Then came the words that completely shattered Shukai's assumptions. She wanted to launch it as a surprise anniversary gift for you. Silence. The world seemed to stop. The man explained that Tan Songyun had been secretly working on the project for weeks. She had been meeting investors, negotiating budgets, reviewing designs, and trying to make every detail perfect. That was why she had been coming home late. That was why she had been exhausted. That was why she had been hiding documents. And that was why she had been so secretive about her phone. She had been planning a surprise. Not a betrayal. A gift. A future. Something she believed would make Xukai happy. The investor excused himself, leaving the couple alone. For the first time, Xukai looked at Tan Songyun without the filter of suspicion. She looked smaller than he remembered. Not because she had changed, but because exhaustion had finally caught up with her. She slowly looked up. Her expression was filled with confusion. "What are you doing here?" Xukai couldn't answer immediately. There were too many emotions fighting inside him. Relief. Shame. Love. Guilt. And an overwhelming realization that he had almost destroyed something precious because he had allowed fear to speak louder than trust. Tan Songyun looked at him carefully. "I wanted it to be perfect," she whispered. Her voice was weak. "That's why I didn't tell you." She paused. "I've been so busy, Kai. I'm sorry I haven't been home much." Those words broke something inside him. She was apologizing for working too hard. She was apologizing for trying to build something special for him. And all the while, he had secretly been watching her because he feared she was betraying him. Xukai looked around the room. The documents. The blueprints. The coffee cups. The countless notes. Every piece of evidence he had interpreted as suspicious now told a completely different story. She had not been hiding another man. She had been hiding a dream. A dream she was building for both of them. Xukai slowly walked toward her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he pulled her into his arms. Tightly. Desperately. Tan Songyun seemed surprised by the sudden embrace, but eventually rested her head against his chest. Xukai closed his eyes. He had spent days imagining the moment he might discover betrayal. Instead, he had discovered devotion. And perhaps that was the cruelest lesson of all. Sometimes the person standing in front of you is not the person your fears have created in your mind. Sometimes silence does not mean deception. Sometimes distance does not mean the love is disappearing. Sometimes someone is simply exhausted from carrying a secret they created because they wanted to make you happy. Xukai knew he had a difficult confession to make. He would eventually have to tell Tan Songyun about the investigator. He would have to explain why he had secretly followed her movements. He would have to face the pain his lack of trust had caused. But in that moment, he wasn't ready. He simply held her. Because after 3 days of fear, suspicion, and imagined betrayal, he finally understood the truth. He had almost allowed a shadow to destroy something real. And the shadow had never been another person. It had been doubt. That night changed the way Xukai looked at trust. He realized that loving someone does not mean knowing every detail of their day. It does not mean having access to every conversation. It does not mean demanding constant explanations whenever something feels unfamiliar. Real trust is tested precisely when you do not have all the answers. Anyone can trust when everything is visible. The real challenge comes when the room is dark. When the phone is silent. When the person you love is busy. When your mind begins filling in the blanks with the worst possible explanation. That is when love asks the hardest question. Will you trust the person you know, or the story your fear has created? For Kai and Tan Songyun, that question nearly came at a devastating cost. But the truth gave them another chance. The surprise project eventually became more than a gift. It became a reminder of what had almost been lost. Because sometimes the most powerful love stories are not the ones without misunderstandings. They are the ones where two people make mistakes, confront their fears, and choose to understand each other instead of walking away. The greatest threat to their relationship had not been another man. It had not been a secret affair. It had not been a hidden betrayal. It was a single unanswered question that grew larger with every passing day. And when the truth finally emerged, Kai learned something he would never forget. Love cannot survive on suspicion. It survives through honesty, patience, communication, and the courage to believe in someone even when you don't understand what they are doing. Tan Songyun had been building a future for them while Kai was afraid that future was slipping away. Two people. One misunderstanding. And a secret that almost changed everything. But perhaps that is what makes the story so powerful. Sometimes, the thing we fear losing is not actually leaving us. Sometimes, it is quietly working behind the scenes to give us something we never expected. And sometimes, the darkest shadow disappears the moment the truth finally steps into the light. If this story kept you hooked until the very end, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with fellow drama fans, and subscribe for more emotional stories, relationship twists, celebrity updates, and unforgettable moments. Because the next story may begin with another secret, another misunderstanding, and another truth waiting just beyond the shadows. See you in the next video.